All right, welcome to the episode. Today, I am here with this gentleman. I'm going to give you his name second. He is a renowned 8-figure digital marketing agency owner. He's served over 700 clients and created over 20 plus 7-figure businesses for those clients, and that is growing. I think he even has one that's up to 8 figures now. His agency focuses on e-com and lead generation companies, which also includes consultation services. Jason's been connected with industry leaders in business social media, such as Damon John from Shark Tank and Jason Capital, just to name a few. I want to welcome to the show, Jason Wojo. How are you, Jason?
Good, man. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Pretty good. You're headquartered out there in Tampa Bay, right? I call that Tom Brady land. Right? The GOAT has relocated, as he says. All right. So I love talking about, this show's primarily towards, salespeople, business owners, entrepreneurs, sales executives, management, and leadership. And I love talking about human behavior and persuasion and how that applies to being a top sales professional, top marketer, top entrepreneur. Let's do this first and foremost, because I've got some questions I wrote down that I thought would help the audience the most. I kind of want to dive into your story a little bit and maybe give our listeners kind of an overview of your background and really how you got to this point at such a young age. I mean, you're only 24, where you're an authority on, marketing, helping companies scale. Like, you're 24 years old. How did this actually happen? Were you born out of your mother's womb and just had all these skills, or how did you acquire them?
Back when I was getting out of high school, I was working at a cafe and my boss was like, you should go to culinary school. So I wound up going to culinary school for a year and I hated it. I dropped out after a year. I moved back in with my parents to go to business school because while I was in culinary school, I was flipping Pokemon cards online.
Okay, you were flipping Pokemon cards online. How the hell did that happen?
So I was bored one day. I mean, it was snowing outside and I was like, all right, well, I have to get the ice off my windshield. Yeah. And I had to go to my trunk to grab the scraper. And I was like, all right. And I had a Ford Focus at the time. Like, literally this thing was on the verge of breaking down. And I go to the back and I see this box, and I forgot I brought this box with me to college. And it had a bunch of Pokemon cards. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm broke right now. Because at the time, I really didn't have much money. And my dad would give me $160 a month. And I don't know why that was the number, but he gave me that amount of money for me to survive, groceries, etc.
Okay.
I was like, okay, well, why don't I just do this? I have a little bit of capital. I have maybe a couple $100. And I was like, all right, let's I have enough money to get some postage and some bubble wrap and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, you know what? Let's do this because I'm bored. Wind up getting these cards out. I'm going on eBay, scanning the items, trying to figure out what the prices are.
Yeah.
And I was really getting into this.
Okay.
And within 3 months, man, all I did was go back and forth because this was my second semester. My first semester was a wash. I was just drinking and partying and just being a college kid.
Right.
So these last 3 months in my second semester, I was just doing this all day, going back and forth to the post office 7 times, 8 times a day. And then in between then I was going to Walmart and buying packs. And there would be days where I would buy all the packs from that one Walmart. And then I would go to Target and then I would go to another Walmart.
You'd have to drive all over town. Okay.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then after 3 months, made 20 grand doing these Pokemon cards. And then it wasn't all profit. It was $7,000 profit, whatever it was. And then I was like, hey, I really like business. And that's why I decided to drop out and move back home. My parents.
You kind of got into the entrepreneur spirit at a young age because of not a necessity, right? You were broke. You didn't have any money. Your parents weren't just just giving you a bunch of money, letting you do whatever you want. You had to make things happen. I love that about you. My oldest daughter's in college. Actually, I have 2 in college. One's 20, the other one's 18. And that's the same thing I do with them. I give them enough money where they're okay, but they're a little bit uncomfortable, right? And so it's they have to go out and do something about it. Okay, that's actually a good thing that your dad did. Because imagine if your dad gave you $1,000 a month or $1,500 a month, would you be where you are right now?
No, I mean? That was true. Yeah.
Even though you might be like, dude, this sucks. My dad didn't give me any money. I had to go out and sell these Pokemon cards. But because your dad did that, you are where you are right now. If he had not done that, he just gave you all this money, who knows where you'd be right now?
Yeah. And since I was doing all this transacting, I decided to go on Instagram and start making videos.
Yeah.
Motivational videos for college kids, basically trying to get them from being comfortable to uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then one day I found a brand on Instagram called Hustle Island. They were selling these t-shirts that had hustle, patience, and gratitude on them.
Yeah.
And they reached out and I was like, hey, send me some shirts. I'll make videos with
Okay.
And I didn't know anything about Facebook ads, nothing. Like
Yeah.
had no clue.
Yeah.
He winds up sending them over. I make the videos. I send it to him. He comes back to me in a week and he's like, hey man, like these ads perform better than any of our ads. And I was like, oh geez. Okay. He's like, dude, I want to hire you.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, so then like we met in Connecticut for lunch because I was in New York at the time. He was like, hey man, like I really like what you're doing. Like you can learn a lot here. And then like he wind up paying me.
Okay.
And that was the one advantage that I had because I didn't know how wealthy Greg was. I had no clue.
Yeah.
And one day we were on like a Zoom chat because like we had weekly Zoom calls with everybody on the team. He was like, all right, guys, like we're going to start these campaigns. And I'm like, okay, like how much are we spending?
Yeah.
And then I said like, like $50 a day. Is that a lot? Like to me, that was a lot of money, $50 a day.
Sure.
He was like, no, man, like, no, we spend like $2,000 to $3,000 a day. And I'm like, what? And like, that is where my mind was like blown. Cause like I had such a money block when I was a kid because of where I was from. And like my parents make that kind of money. So I was like,
yeah. So because this business owner was like, yeah, $3,000 a day, it's like nothing, like a drop in the bucket. It caused you to think things maybe through a little bit differently. That leads into one of my first questions I want to ask you. So in your mind, why is it important for someone to be able to have the ability to market and sell in today's competitive world?
Like there's a lot of business owners that we work with, and it's awesome that like you do exactly what most of my clients need, which is they can get the leads, they can get the traffic, they can market the offer. But once the lead comes into their ecosystem, man, they can't close. They don't know how to do nurture. They don't have the right systems and automations in place to close leads. And they don't want to spend the money because they don't think it's that important. They think that ad spend is the most important thing, and it's not.
Yeah.
Like there's a difference between business owners who spend money on ads and business owners who make money. And the business owners who make money don't care about ad spend because they have proven systems where they make money.
You know how a lot of people say like, oh, if I could spend $1 and make $2, like you've got a really great business. Well, in our company here in Seventh Level, we spend $1 and we make 12.
I'm at around a 10. So I know exactly how you're feeling. Like,
yeah,
that's really
a
good
difference between like, conversion, because you have a sales team that knows how to help your prospects find problems that maybe they didn't think they had, right? And help them see what their consequences are if they don't do anything about solving them and if they stay in status quo. And that pretty much triggers the person to want to start thinking what we call results-based thinking rather than price-based thinking. Right? Because if your prospects are thinking price-based thinking, it's because you haven't created enough gap in their mind of where they are compared to where they want to be. We call that their current state to their objective state, like their future. The bigger that gap, which comes from your skilled questioning ability, the more likely they are to purchase what you're offering, because then you get them to start thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm here. I want to be here. I want to be here. It's only going to cost this to get to here because the gap is so big. But if you don't know how to close right there, if you don't know the right questions, that gap becomes way smaller. And then it looks more like a bill or an extra expense. And that's why you get so many of, I want to think it over. Your price is too high. I'm still looking around. Can you give me a quote? That's a triggered reaction from the salespeople not knowing how to sell.
Yeah. And then that's where like, I have a sales team right now, 5 people. Like we do well. I always get on calls with them every week. We're training. We're going over like every single objection that we get goes into a Google Doc FAQ, and we go over it every single week. Like we always go through like framing of the phone call, the emotional triggers, FOMO, and then like the price objection part at the end, where either they say that excuse of like, hey, it's too high, or, hey, can I get back to you? I got to talk to my wife. Like we have good answers for those objections, or we go for the deposit route of like, listen, like we can only service this amount of people a week. We need to take this deposit from you now. And then they'll be like, oh, well, wait till Friday. I get that stuff so much. Like, let me wait till Friday. It's like, listen, like there's no difference between today and Friday, except 5 days.
Well, it just depends on if you want to change your situation, because like, what are you going to do if nothing changes? If you keep getting these lower quality leads to your salespeople and your sales stay the same the next 3, 6, 12 months, like what happens then? It's asking consequence questions, right? That allows them to see that it's far less risky for me to get the money to pay Jason for his services and get my company where I want it to be than it is for me to do nothing at all. The problems stay the same and then nothing ever changes, which is more risky.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? I like that. So give me an example. I mean, you started your company a few years back. You're only 24, but you're already very, very successful. Success really comes from clients getting success, right? Because if a company does not get their client success, that company fizzles and burns out like extremely quickly, because everybody knows, right? If you can't get them results, then you're not going to be successful. What do you feel are a few of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make or even salespeople make when they're trying to sell their product or service?
I think they don't understand the power of a really irresistible offer.
What do you mean by that? That's kind of a marketing term that kind of was developed by like Russell Brunson with ClickFunnels. But what do you mean by that?
So like there's a lot of companies that we ran ads for. And the biggest difference between the ones that can succeed with little management and the ones that completely fail is like the offer needs to be something that is easy to understand.
Yeah.
Gives a really solid guarantee of something that they want, that is a bold enough claim for people to understand.
Yeah.
So like, for example, like we have a guarantee with credit repair clients where it's like, hey, we can book you 50 plus appointments every single week guaranteed, and they're all qualified. And if we don't do that, we'll give you all your money back.
Yeah.
That is a good offer, especially for that niche.
Yeah.
And then the third side of it is hitting the right emotional triggers and the FOMO of like, it's instant gratification of what they want.
Tell us what you mean by FOMO. Not everybody might know what you mean by that. What do you mean by FOMO?
It just stands for the fear of missing out. You know, for example, like we're on the phone with a credit repair person, like literally like this is guaranteed. We've done this for 27 companies and you can literally go on my story right now and you can click my story highlights and you can see every single one of these people. Yeah. And the difference between them and you right now is that they said yes.
Yeah.
And they got results in as little as 7 days, and you're here right now and you need this. And like, there's more that goes into like just that whole tangent of like, if you don't do this, you're going to not get the results that these people are getting. You're going to keep going down this road of being aggravated.
And it's not really telling them that they're not going to get results. It's asking them questions that allow them to see in their own mind that if they don't do anything about it, that nothing's going to change and they're going to stay in the status quo, never get what they want. What about on the marketing side? What are a few of the biggest mistakes on just the marketing side?
Number one is definitely the creatives. A lot of clients who don't succeed, they're afraid to be on camera. They're afraid to spend money on better creatives. Okay. They are not held accountable to make, more videos. Like there's a lot of clients who are just like, oh, like, you know what? We're just going to make this one video and we're going to run it forever and it's going to do well. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. If you see the biggest companies on Instagram who are crushing it, who you look at every single day and you're like, wow, like they're doing amazing things. They have well over 50 creators running at the same time, different audiences, all this different dynamic targeting. And it's like, that's the difference.
It's so true. I mean, even in my own company, when we first started, like just this year, we changed up some of our advertising. It works really, really well on Facebook. But, I shot 25 2-minute videos. Okay. So basically they're just videos of me like training, just little aspects, little golden nuggets. And then it's a call to action after that. So it kind of builds rapport, it builds credibility just by watching that. And then we retarget all those people who viewed a certain amount of seconds, right? Get them into like our Facebook group and other things as well to help them solve their problems. But I remember I had to write all that and shoot 25 of those. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, this is going to last so long. Well, then like 5 weeks later, my team's like, hey, we need more. Like 5 weeks later, I'm like, what the hell? So every month I do 10 to 12 new 2-minute freaking ads every single month. But you have to really keep your company going, really scale and all that stuff, because some of them don't convert as high as others. So you continue to process.
And the one thing I always say is like, hey, if I make 10, maybe 3 will do well. And that's like my thinking process. And that's why every single week, Jordan, who's my camera guy, he comes over every week, twice a week, and we record 5 story ads every single time.
Yeah.
Because like, I just want to have as many as possible. And it doesn't have to be different videos. It's just different backgrounds, different text, colors. I'm wearing a different shirt. It's mostly the same script, but the script works. I don't want to reinvent the wheel on that side. I want to be different with the actual front end creative and the backgrounds and just, stuff
so just like a little bit of that. In your mind, should a salesperson also brand themselves as a go-to expert, or what are your thoughts on that?
So I make all my guys do this because they see what I do in my personal brand. Like I have over 1 million followers now. We post 9 times a day on our feed. I mean, I have like a whole content team that does all this from IGTVs to quotes to carousels to just picture posts. Because when we're on the phone with prospects, they don't want to just know about me. They want to know about the person who's taking their card number over the phone.
Sure.
So that's why I'm like, like I have James, Jake here and Ben, like I make sure that they're posting. They have a lot of followers. They have a good bio. They post on their story. They show people their lifestyle, because if they're not transparent and a prospect is on the phone and they're like, hey, like, what's your Instagram? And they go there and there's nothing there. They're sketched out. They're like, I'm talking to somebody who doesn't even brand themselves. So why are they talking to me right now about branding?
It's so true, because I've looked at people that have hit us up about doing our IG and stuff like that. And then I go to their account and they've got less people than I do. And I don't even really do anything on IG. So I'm like, why would I hire them? They've got half the followers that I do. And I don't even do anything on IG to even grow it yet. So it's so true. It builds credibility for sure. This question I have for you, how do you get others to believe in your products and services that you offer without telling them why they need it? How do, in your mind, like how do you and your salespeople do that for your potential customers?
So the biggest thing that helps them is just selling me and just like the stuff that I've done, the people that I know, the associations, not just like the you need it, but like the results. Like, hey, you can go like, while they're on the phone with them, like, hey, go to Jason's IG right now
Sure.
and hit this story highlight. And I'm going to give you 2 minutes, just scroll through there and tell me what you think. And then like, there's more than just one story highlight of like, there's results 1, 2, and 3, and they can scroll through them and see all the results. And that's really how we sell it. And then when they actually see the followers, they go there, they see the follower count, they see that I'm posting 9 times a day. They're just sold because they're like, damn, like this kid's.
So they can see what you're doing, right? So
Yeah.
it's not you just telling them, but they're actually seeing it in the work. You handle these companies, different backgrounds of these companies. But what are a few of the biggest things you see companies do that really prevents them from scaling their ads besides not doing enough videos?
So the first thing is definitely fulfillment, because they focus so much on like, hey, how can I get buyers or how can I get leads? But like, if they can't handle the fulfillment of scaling, then that's where they fall. And also there's a money block and a mental block of hiring more people, because when they're scaling, they're like, oh, I'm spending so much money right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but that's the name of the game. And that's just the way it is. You want to book out your calendar. You want 3 VAs to fulfill your services. You want 4 to 5 sales reps on the phone. You want an appointment setter, but you don't want to spend more money. So there's a big difference between companies who can make 10 to 30K a month and companies who will make 100, 200, 300, 400K a month. And that's the biggest block that they have to pass. They're just afraid to hire. They're afraid to spend more money because they're attached to those profits.
Okay. They're afraid to like put money back in to really grow the business.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Because they're content with making that 10 to maybe 30, 40 because society has told them that they're part of the 1% now.
Right. Okay.
And that's where they're like, oh, like, all right, fine. I'll make 30, 40 grand a month. Like I'm chilling.
Yeah.
But then me as the agency owner, I'm like, hey, like we can make this bigger. Like, let's put this into place. Oh, okay. Like, let's talk about this later on in the week. That's just them kicking the rock down the road. And it's just like,
let's say they're paying themselves 40, but let's say if they just said, look, I'm going to pay, for the next 3 months, I'm only going to pay myself 15. I'm going to put that extra 25 back into ads. 3 months later, they might be able to pay themselves 80 grand a month. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is what happens. They get this money. And what's the first thing they think about? What can I buy? Can I get a bigger house? Can I get a car? Can I get a Rolex? Can I get this?
Yeah.
And then they start saving that money and harnessing it because they want to be a part of the Instagram fame, is like what they call it. They want to post and like get a Range Rover and like go on vacation and go to Dubai. Sure. And that's what they want. So when you tell them to take less, they're like, oh, like maybe I can't buy the car this month or whatever. Like that's all they're thinking about.
Because so it's overcoming the instant gratification for the long-term results and success. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
And like right now we're kind of doing that. Like we had to scale back a little bit because I started to see a lot of leads that were falling through the cracks. And I'm like, all right, like we got to figure this out. So I had to pay for a CRM. I had this whole like sales agency setting this up and they're giving me like the rep and an appointment setter. And it wasn't cheap, man. It was like 25 to 30 grand. And I'm like, damn, like, this is, but I was like, all right, like I have to do this because if I can close 30% more people, my KPIs will go by this amount, which is worth it. Sure. So like, and that's the thing that business owners don't think about. They don't want to spend the money.
While we're on that topic about business owners, entrepreneurs, what's one important question that every entrepreneur should be asking themselves before they start their own business? So we got salespeople listening to this right now. Some of them might be thinking like, hey, I want to start my own business one day. What's one important question that, if you know now the answer to it, but when you started 3 years ago, you had no clue? What's one important question they need to ask themselves before they jump into that boat?
I don't know if you agree with this, but the biggest thing that I've seen is how can I have an irresistible offer that no matter what someone has or is currently doing can purchase at any moment? Because if you have a low barrier to entry, but your offer is good, then business owners of all lengths will buy from you. Okay. And I think that when entrepreneurs first start out, they're looking to make so much money so quickly, but they really don't realize that they're offering something that everybody else has. Yeah. And they need a unique offer that can be bought by different tiers of people. Because as long as they start getting cash flow, if they can just get that first sale, that's all they need as far as confidence. So they really have to focus on their offer and specificity and their actual target group.
I think it's so true. I mean, I look at my company that I started pretty much almost in 2018. So it's been about 3 years. Our first year, here I was a salesperson. I was making multiple seven figures a year in my job as a salesperson. Okay. Like a W-2 employee for like 12 years straight. Did extremely well. Then I started my own company and I'm like, oh, I'm going to make 20 times more than that. But little did I realize that first year, it's all about building the right team around you. The first year, we only did like $1.5 million in sales. And I'm like, dude, I used to make way more of this. And that wasn't profit. That was just sales, and our profit margins were horrible because I was like running the company as a CEO, trying to do all the training, do everything else myself. Didn't know what I was doing, had never run a company. Obviously, I was just a salesperson or executive in companies. We struggled and we probably profited like 20% of that. And my wife was like, dude, maybe you should go back to like your sales job because this we've got money here to last, a good 10 years. But what are you going to do after that? Like profit margins are not going to be high enough. And then, the next year started hiring the right team and I got a CEO and I stepped down as a CEO, and just focused on the training. Our sales went from like $1.5 million to like almost 5 million that next year. Right. So we like quadrupled. We just won Inc. 5,000 fastest growing companies in the United States. We're like ranked 1,230 something right there. Okay. That was just because of the team. Now this year we're on pace to do almost 5 times that amount in sales 3 years later. But if you would have asked me that the first year, Jason, like not knowing what I know now, like you have to build the right team. I think being a successful business owner is about your team that's around you because Jason, you have really good marketing skills, but maybe somebody else has skills in like organization of running the company or the finances of the company. When you start your own company, you take your skill level and then you hire or bring in another partner that really has skill levels in the other areas if you really ever want to scale the company.
No, man, I definitely agree with that. I mean, like my team's good. We train, like we're always optimizing stuff. Yeah, man, you become a bottleneck at some point, and it's like you gotta, and that's the thing too, like that's what I was saying before, like companies won't hire because they're so attached to like, I did all this.
Yeah.
I did all this and I don't want to give that credit to anybody else.
Yeah.
Because that's like a huge ego thing that gets in the way of people hiring.
Sure.
And it's like, dude, the only way to make more money is having more people. Because if you are doing 100% of the stuff in your business, you need to find people who are at least 80% as good as you. That's like my rule. It's like, are you 80% as good as me? All right. Like, let's see how we make this work.
It's all about having the right team. If your team is off, your company is going to be off. It's just going to be hard to really scale until you have the right, at least the core foundation of the team. You have the core foundation, everything else kind of just follows, in place from that. Let's talk a little bit about COVID-19, the pandemic. How has marketing changed in your mind because of COVID, if at all?
I mean, it forced a lot of stuff online. It made us grow massively. Like I made 6 to 7 times more money once COVID hit. Because everything transitioned online. We had a bunch of Shopify store clients who were trying to sell stuff online. Also, just more attention was online. People were swiping on their feeds more than ever. So that's when I started like building out the brand and all that, like my personal brand and posting more content, doing all that. I took that as an opportunity because everybody was like, oh, like I can't make money. I can't get a job. Clients are leaving because they don't have money. I'm like, no, the people have money. You just don't have value and you don't know how to sell.
Exactly.
And that's where we kind of took that approach.
How do you see it changing even further now?
I think people are really starting to see the value of a dollar because of COVID and like the stimulus checks and all this. And there was a lot of entrepreneurs. And here's the thing, like entrepreneurship was cool until COVID hit. And now that we're starting to really like regroup, now people are starting to think that it's cool again. But what they don't realize is that COVID exposed the business owners from the real business owners.
I agree.
Because the people who were curious and just wanted to be an entrepreneur, they don't know how to innovate. They didn't know how to grow. They didn't know how to build systems. They didn't have a good offer. They were just selling online and just basically making money off people's desperation.
Yeah.
But a real business is the one that can consistently churn through any state of the economy. And that's the biggest piece.
I totally agree. Like even in my space in sales training, a lot of sales trainers just went under because the only way they generated leads or business was by doing events. Like they had to be there in live events. And once there were no live events, they had no online presence, no marketing ideas, like nobody could do that. And they thought that their book was going to make them a lot of money and it just doesn't do anything. So we were already virtual way before that, right? Because we recognized like really the power of that reach compared to like just me being on a plane like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like, I don't want to do that. Like I have kids, I'm married. I don't want to be gone. Like, I don't mind speaking once a month or once every 2 months. That's fine. As long as it's a good group or a corporate event. A lot of people in my industry were on the road speaking at 3 events a week. and like being home 1 or 2 days a week. Like who wants that type of life? You know, I might as well go get a job. Like it's crazy. Let's talk about this. How do you fine tune your craft? Like once you stand out as an industry leader, how do you continue to improve your brand?
It's more about the collaboration within the team too.
Yeah.
So like the reason why I keep learning is because there's new things that my team members will bring to the table. I'm like, you know what? Like, let's test that. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Like, let's try this creative versus this one. Like, I actually want to test this. And I think that's a good idea. And then we find certain things from that, like little things, man, like changing a button on a Shopify store from add to cart to place order, or changing the top bar on an ad from red to yellow. I'm like things that I'm like, you know what? Like, let's actually test this. And then when it wins, I'm like, dude, good job. Like, we can use that, and we can now take that from one client to all of our clients.
Yeah. So it's just collaborating with your team is basically what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. And then also like, I mean, I'm in masterminds and stuff that I pay for, and I'm always learning new like button hacks and copy and like, you know, landing page hacks and plugins and snippets and all this stuff with email and SMS. And
that's why that's so important. Like, you know, you're doing really well, you're scaling your business. Like, why are you going to more masterminds? Why are you getting around to other marketers? Like, why are you wanting to learn and keep developing skills?
Because there's always somebody smarter than me. I mean, I'm not the best Facebook advertiser, and like you have to like pull back the curtain on your ego and just like let yourself be open to new ideas.
Yeah.
Like, and the crazy part is when you start jumping up on the ladder of entrepreneurs, of people that you know are crushing it, you start to realize that like, you know, making 5 to 10 mil a year is good, but there's going to be that one person at an event who's like, I make 50 mil a year, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
what are they doing differently?
Like,
what do I need to learn from this person?
Yeah. Like, I need to pick this person's brain. Like, there's something there that I don't have.
Yeah.
Like, there's something there. Like literally today, man, you're not going to believe this, but there was one thing that I added to my landing page on ClickFunnels, and the app's called FOMO. And I was like, you know what? Like, let's add this thing. Like, it's basically just like, and I never added this to my ClickFunnels because I was like, all right, the funnel's already converting really well. And I had someone in a Facebook group for my mastermind who's like, yo, like get this app called FOMO.com. And I'm like, okay, so it's $20 a month. I added this one snippet to the bottom left, and it says like, this person booked a call, you know, 30 active users on your site. Dude, we usually book about 30 to 35 phone calls a day.
Yeah.
We booked 78 today. I booked twice as many phone calls because of a snippet on the site.
Just from a snippet that that you wouldn't have learned unless you went to this mastermind.
Yeah. And I was like, even the smallest of things.
Yeah.
And like when you're scaling, like you've proven the concept.
Yeah.
But there's always these little things that can stretch your ad budget, stretch the money that you're spending.
Yeah.
And it just like amazes me. So now I can spend twice as less on ads.
You can spend the same amount and get twice as many leads, twice as many sales, preferably. I want to thank you for being on the show. Any final thoughts or advice for our listeners?
The biggest thing I would say is right now, building out a personal brand. I think a lot of people try to sell from a company logo.
Yeah.
And like they have a good offer, but they're not willing to show their face.
Speak to the salespeople listening right now, like branding, like building out a personal brand.
Like you should be posting consistently on Instagram, even going on LinkedIn, providing value drops, like even on Twitter, like get on every platform, TikTok as well. Because I've gotten a good amount of like clients from TikTok just because of like the daily content that we post.
Yeah.
And like the biggest thing is about showing your face, being transparent, showing that you're actually
so example, like if you sell cars at a car dealership, when you make a sale, take a freaking selfie of you and that client over and over and over. People will start to view you in your local community as like, hey, this person helps people buy cars. Like that's the person maybe I should buy a car from. Or if you sell insurance, you know, take a picture with your clients. Or if you sell solar, or if you sell, you know, SaaS, take a picture with the business owner, right? And you start
it's just that they think it's awkward. They think it's awkward to do that because it's like, it's weird to take a selfie with a client, or it's weird to take this kind of picture. It's like yesterday when I was at the hotel, and I was like, this is the power of personal branding. This guy was like one of the hotel, like he does like the luggage and stuff. And I'm walking out of the conference room because we finished the event. And he's like, yo, dude, are you Wojo? And I'm like, oh shit. Like I get noticed in public because of all the stuff that we post online. Yeah. And he's like, dude, I saw your car outside. Like I've been following you for a year. Like I'm so happy you're in Tampa. And I'm like, damn, like it's crazy how just by simply posting content that's valuable, that shows that you're a real person. Like people are so excited to get to talk to you. And like I'll get on Zoom calls with clients and they're like, oh my God, like you're actually on the Zoom. And I'm like, yeah, like I invited you to the Zoom call. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know, it's just like really weird, man. It's just, you're showing yourself not just as an entrepreneur or salesperson, but as an authority.
I agree. Yeah. You're the trusted authority. You're the trusted expert. That's how you want to be viewed in no matter what you sell, what industry or product your service offers. Jason, where can our listeners learn more about you and your services?
Yeah, so if they follow me on Instagram at the Jason Wojo, that's my handle on every platform. TikTok is just Jason Wojo.
Jason, thanks. That was intriguing. A lot of times we talk mainly all about sales, like, what we're asking, what we're saying, but a lot of times I like to bring in digital marketing experts to our listeners because salespeople, you've got to start branding yourself. I don't care if you're a W-2 salesperson and 1099, you start branding yourself, you're going to make more sales, and your clients and your prospects are going to start to view you, like Jason said, more as the expert or the trusted authority in your niche and market. Jason, thanks for being on.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed these, here's another you can watch right over here, Join our free Sales Revolution group. Click the link below, join us, and we're going to help you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you real soon.